Yo, hell yeah. Wyatt begins in like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yo, welcome to Wyatt, and I'm your host, Wyatt O'Brien Evans. Grrr, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof. Hey, to all my YouTubers out there, if you like what you hear, if you like what you see, just click that subscribe button at the bottom of your screen. Just click it, click it, click it. I loves to click it. Yeah. Now, today's Wyatt is an essential conversation about Black male mental health. And our very special guest is Mr. Anthony Carter, who's written a very important book on the issue. And Anthony is also a writer, he's a documentary filmmaker, and he's also a radio personality. So y'all, let's get to talking. Yeah. Without further ado, Wyatt welcomes Mr. Anthony Carter. Talk at me. How the hell are ya?
I am great. I just found out today that I got a new job. I'm starting next week.
Wonderful.
I had 3 job interviews last week. 2 of them went really well. One of them I got a job offer today. So things are going really well. I'm getting settled in. Happy to be here. Happy to join you. Just good all the way around.
I am glad. You know, I'm so glad we have you here today because we're going to have an important conversation. Mm-hmm. But Anthony, what I want to say first to the audience is that you have such a compelling story. And also, too, you overcame a daunting situation that would have crushed lesser individuals. Now, we're going to get into that. Mm-hmm. A little bit later. Also, a little bit later, we are going to talk about your amazing work as an author, a writer, a podcaster, a
filmmaker,
screenwriter, a
screenwriter too.
Right, screenwriter, a documentary filmmaker.
Yes.
But before we do all of that, you know what we're going to do? Okay, I'll tell you.
I have an idea, but okay.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
We are going to travel down the corridors of time so that our audience can learn all about your backstory. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Guthrie, Oklahoma. My parents met in college, and they love to point out that I was conceived on a college campus. I don't know why they feel the need to tell that story. But they bring it up, and it's like, okay, you're 80, I'm almost 60. Let's let that go. But I was conceived and born in Guthrie, Oklahoma. My parents met at Langston College, a historical HBCU. And they moved back to Detroit, where my dad was born and raised. And we moved to Detroit when I was about a year old. So I spent the first 18 years in Detroit. So I grew up in Motown.
Great. Mm-hmm. Now, I have to ask you this question. I asked my special guest this question, and it makes me laugh. It tickles my funny bone. Here it is. What 3 characteristics, qualities, attributes best describe you as a boy, a little nipper? Tell us.
Curious, inquisitive, and highly creative.
Well, those 3 go together when you think about it. Mm-hmm. Did you get into any trouble when you were that little nipper?
Yes, I did, because all those things when you're growing up as a little black kid, a little black gay kid in 1970s Detroit, you know, people, they don't appreciate you know, your Eartha Kitt imitations and your Mae West imitations.
Oh, the Catwoman. She was the Catwoman for me, baby.
Yeah, when you're slinking around the house purring, because you saw this woman, they don't appreciate the work that goes into getting that together, and the hours you spend trying to get it pitch perfect. They don't appreciate that. So yeah, I would get into trouble from time to time for being really smart, for asking a lot of questions, for calling. I know you can't curse on your show. You got your 7 words like George Carlin. I know you can't curse on your show. So I'll say this: you get in trouble when you're a young kid when you call BS, particularly when people are around you. The adults, the parents are doing a lot of, they think you don't know things. They're trying to get you to toe the line, right? And at 6 or 7, well, something is off. And that it's 7. It makes for a very interesting East Side Detroit raising. Let me put it that way.
That's a hell of a way of putting it. I like that.
Yes.
Okay, let's fast forward to your college days. We'll take a big leap. Now, you attended Fisk University in Tennessee, and you earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in English.
Correct.
So, question for you is this one. Did you have a particular salient experience in college that helped shape you into the person that you are today?
Yeah, when I went to college, I was 18, and I had already gone to 2, like I said, I was very smart as a young kid, and my parents, I was in 2 pre-med programs both summers before I went to college. So I was running around the campus of Morehouse College in Atlanta when I was like 16, 17. I was in a pre-med program. So I was taking college courses when I was between my junior and senior year in high school and senior year and when I graduated. By the time I got to college, I was 18, and I would say a year or 2 into my college career is when I came out. I'd always been interested in guys and men, and that was probably, I would say, it was probably the big thing that when I look at my college experience, I started, dating men and dealing with that, and what does that look like, and how do I build a life where I want to love Black men. I'm trying to love Black men. And I'm seeing men do things that are highly, highly emotionally unhealthy. But not once again, like the 7-year-old once again saying, why are we doing this way? Trying to understand, does being gay mean you have to be a sociopath?
And you know what? We're going to get into this. We're going to get into mental health challenges a little bit later. But let me say this. I had a similar experience as a late bloomer sexually because I didn't have my first experience until I was like a freshman in college. So I totally get that.
Is that late? That was about my time to shine. But then again, I know people that, 13 and 14, and I'm like,
well,
really?
yeah. Well, no, not that early, but I'm saying that, if you go beyond high school and not having done it, I just consider that to be kind of like a late bloomer. I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, what do I know, right?
Yeah. Well, I think everybody has their own time and their own timing.
True.
And depending on where you are in the world, where you are in the country, what your upbringing is, all of those things have a hand in when you go to the dark side. And when you decide this is just the way that it is, this is just who I am, deal with it, right? And you start, and like I say, for me, it was about, I had experiences with guys and boys and everything, but I think when I was about 18 or 19, when I was just like, okay, this is just what it is. Because it wouldn't go away. Like I kept thinking it was going to go away, and it just wouldn't. No. And it just, yeah. And then I met some people who were very, I don't know if they were pro-gay or they were very instrumental in me being okay with it. And what happened was I had a community around me, and they were like, yeah, so what? Like, who didn't know that? Like, why are we having this big coming out conversation? I've known since day one. I always thought you were great. You want to get something to eat? And I was like, oh, that's it? So that was good. That could have been really traumatic. So
You had a really good support system
mhm.
then. Okay. Now I'm going to read a quote from you.
Uh-oh.
Okay. And this is you.
Mhm.
I moved to California in 2008 to further my dream of being in TV and film.
Mhm.
I had no huge plan other than using my talent and my pluck to build a film and TV career. I love pluck.
Yes.
However, I learned that this wasn't enough, end quote. So let's please unpack that.
Okay. Uh, when I got to California in 2008, I was 40. I turned 40 in February. I moved to California in July. So freshly 40. And I had been living in New York. And when I moved to New York, that's what you relied on was pluck. This kind of what do you call it? Almost like an East Coast hustle, right? And you keep working, and you keep working, and everything leads to the next thing, right? And so when I got to New York, my goal was just to get as much stage time as I could in any capacity that I could. So anytime there's an opportunity to be on stage, I took it. If it was telling jokes, if it was hosting a show, if I was singing, if I was working with band, if I was doing a theater piece, if it didn't matter. It was stage time, right? And I was determined. So I did that for 13 years and learned a whole lot about performing and being on the stage. Then mistakenly thought I could take that same energy, bring it to LA, and just, Hollywood would open its arms to me. Like, oh, okay, well, we like your pluck. We like your spunk, as they used to say on Mary Tyler Moore. That wasn't the case. Being in California, when I moved to LA, right outside of LA, I lived in Long Beach. When you are on the West Coast and you're doing TV and film, I've been told, I know that it's true, in TV and film, you're talking about a whole lot of money and a little bit of time. A whole lot of money, a little bit of time. Here's the difference. If I'm in, and this has actually happened, if I'm in New York and let's say I'm doing Macbeth, right? Or whatever play I'm doing. Let's just say Macbeth, because I've done Macbeth twice and I love Shakespeare. If I'm doing Macbeth, and let's say I have to leave early, or you ask me, we agree I'm going to audition Thursday at 7. Something comes up and I say I can't do it. Can I reschedule? Sure, no problem. We'll see you tomorrow or do whatever. Not the case in LA and in Hollywood. If you're supposed to be on How to Get Away with Murder, unless you're Viola Davis, you don't get to rewrite, you don't tell them when you come in. And if they say they need you there, the call time is at 8, there is no, can I come in later? So,
but you know what? I don't have an issue with that because I'm all about commitment. And once I make a commitment, I'm going to be there.
Right.
So, okay, please continue.
But it's very, like I say, it's very different because it's about a small window of time, right? And it's a lot of money involved. And you got a lot of people that you're paying a lot of money. So you don't get to rewrite schedules and kind of come and go. Right. So then when I got out here, and I didn't know that, and nobody had really explained that to me. And then on top of it, I didn't move with any money. I think when I got to LA, I think I had $50. I was in San Francisco doing a play, asked my father to wire me $100 for a bus ticket to get to Long Beach. I took $50, got on the bus, and then and started kind of like trying to hustle to get something going. So that
took balls.
Yeah. Well, in stupidity. But
I didn't say that now.
However you want to, hey, I'll say it. However you want to look at it.
I'm just saying
chutzpah, balls, chutzpah, moxie, whatever spin you want to put on it. Whatever spin you want to put on it. But I did learn, moving out there, if I had to do it again, and when I've advised other people who wanted to exercise the same moxie and come out behind me or call me and say, what do I need to do? I told them all the same thing. You need $10,000. You need a car. There's things you have to have in place. It's a whole different animal. It's a very different beast. And I was not I'm always prepared to work and do the work.
Right.
But what I've learned over the years is that I'm really good at, once I figure out the system, I'm really big on the system. And once I figure out the system and what game I'm playing, then I can outwork anybody. And I know that's a Detroit thing. That's a Midwest thing. My grandfather worked all the time. My dad works all the time. Everybody in my family works there. So that I get. But I
Strong
think,
work ethic.
But when you trot out to what you think is a football field with the bat and everything, and they're playing basketball, you're in the wrong kind of setup, right? And doesn't matter how you feel about it. You're playing the wrong game with the wrong equipment. So that was something I had to learn. And so I learned it. And it was just like, okay, I came out to do X, Y, and Z. This isn't going to happen. What am I going to do next? And that's kind of when I fell into, I want to say a depression, but kind of a funk, and that, some homelessness and some other things. And I pulled myself out of that.
So the homelessness is that situation that I was talking about at the top of the show. Mm-hmm. And I think you experienced that for almost 3 years?
I experienced it I was unemployed for 2.5.
Okay, got it.
I was homeless and couch surfing for a year. And here's the thing about that I find hysterical. I was thinking about this yesterday. I didn't even know I was homeless until somebody told me, and I said, what? And I was talking to an ex who's still living in New York, and that's where we had our home. We were on the phone, and he said, well, I was telling him about my living situation. He said, well, you're homeless. Like, that's the 21st century version of it. Couch surfing. And I said, I am? I didn't even know. That was the brutal part, but I didn't even know I was in that hole, that trap. I wasn't calling it that.
Well, Anthony, how did you handle not having a structured residence around you? You were surf couching for a year. How did you deal with that?
A couple of things. I kept telling myself, I'm more than this. I'm bigger than this. Okay. I'm gonna figure this. I'm going to figure out this game and come out on top. All I need to do is figure out the system. I'm willing to work my ass off once I figure out the system. I consistently told myself almost every day, almost like an obsession, all day, every day. You're bigger than this. You're going to get out of this. This is not who you are. This is where you are right now. And this is a stopgap, but this is not a way of life, And
your mantra.
Yeah. It's a difference between, you talk to people about generational poverty, where it's like every generation, they just kind of keep doing the same thing. And there's situational poverty. And I knew when I was in it, this is situational. All I got to do is figure out, I've got to unlearn some things and figure out how to work and play the system, this game that's set up, because it's set up different. I got to figure that out. Yeah. And then once I figure that out, I'm done with this. So I knew it wasn't going to be a way of life. So I kept going, and I just putting one foot in front of the other, and I kept writing, and just kept that up, and just, like I said, a lot of faith, a lot of prayers, and and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and so I eventually pulled myself out.
Wow, I mean that's great. I want to move over to your book. It's The Unfettered Mind, The Importance of Black Male Mental Health. And my audience, let me tell you something.
Uh-oh, that means pay attention.
Gotcha. Man, it feels so good when I do that. My audience, this book is an essential, critical read. And Anthony, let me set the table before I turn the conversation over to you. Seriously, as a journalist, I have written a lot of articles for online and print media, Huffington Post, my website, wyattevans.com, about chronic depression in Black, gay, SGL men. And one of the major takeaways is that we have too many African American folks who are swimming, actually drowning in the sea of denial. They don't want to deal with the fact that they have mental health issues,
Hmm.
and stigma is such a big piece of them not getting help. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, that's a loaded segue. um, yeah, I think for some reason, we think um, that being mentally healthy, being emotionally healthy is not for us. And I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if it's a throwback to, oppression and slavery. I don't know where it comes from, but there's some part of us that for many of us, we believe that, right? And we'll hold on to that. Even when, like I was saying a couple of minutes ago, even when you are watching somebody and they're doing things that are harmful to themselves, and people around them, we still won't say, well, hey, you should go get that handled. You should go talk to somebody. We've talked recently, we're talking about how if you broke your arm, right, you would not set, this is not the old West or the old country where you'd set it yourself and go on to work, right? If you broke your arm, you'd go to the emergency room or urgent care, or you'd go see somebody who fixes broken arms. You would not let
Right.
cousin Pookie, meet you in the garage and set up. You wouldn't do that. I wouldn't.
I'm with
Even if
you, my
cousin,
brother.
even if
I wouldn't
even
either.
if cousin Pookie is a doctor, no, I'm going to the hospital, right? So for some reason, we have so much shame around naming what it is, that hey, I need some help. I'm not okay, right? Then we also have shame around, I think, asking for help.
Right.
I think, and especially when you start talking about men, a lot of times what I see with men, if we don't know everything, we're supposed to know everything, right? And we're supposed to have all the answers, and none of us do.
Right.
We're supposed to have all the answers. So if you have all the answers and you can't ask for help, that's just a recipe for disaster, right? And then you say, we do all these things. A lot of things that I think we do are a direct reflection of the depression we have. But we've normalized it, right? So we think it's okay to have just have sex all day, every day with any and everybody, right? That's just being a guy. No, he's
Right.
depressed. Or you look at somebody, and during COVID, people talk about the COVID 20, and this person's got the COVID 80. Well, wait a minute, what is going on here, right? Or you're not sleeping through the night, or you're sleeping all the
Or you're
time.
sleeping too
Yeah,
much,
yeah,
right?
all the time, right?
Or
And
you have no sexual desire at all.
right. And you look at all these things, and people will, and one of the things that I think we've bought into, and it has been a hell of a job that's done on us, is that we normalize so many things that aren't normal. And then, of course, we surround ourselves with people that, as the old folks used to say, co-sign all that nonsense, right? So nobody says to you, hey, I think I'm having too much sex. What? Or I'm not, or I'm overeating. Well, that's just, you're older. You should be, you can be a little thicker. It's like, no, that we're not talking about a little thicker. So yeah, I think it's important that we find therapists. We get a therapist and we go to one. And that was the whole reason for me putting all that stuff in the book, Unfettered Mind, the importance of Black male mental health. And the reason I said Black male mental health instead of gay Black, I wanted it to be anybody who's Black and male to be able to pick it up and use it. It's not just for, because if you see that on the book cover, it's very easy to once again discount it. Well, I'm not gay, so I don't need to read that. He's got nothing to share. Well, wait a minute.
That was really, really, really smart. Let me insert two things before I forget. Number one, sometimes you have to go through a series of therapists to find your right fit. That happened to me. And when I found the person, it was beautiful. So just because the first one or the second one doesn't do you any good, you have to keep going, because this is you. This is your life. You've got to find someone to help you. And then number two, you know, too many times people will say, well, I'm going to my minister and he will help me or she will help me. No, 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 no. Look, if the
Unless
minister
they are
has
a trained therapist, no.
unless they have a degree in psychiatry or
Mhm.
psychology, no, no, that's what God put these professionals on the planet for, to help us. So if they don't have that kind of degree, don't go to them for that.
Right. My friend I used to have a coworker who used to say, we would talk about mental health with our clients. And she would always talk about how, with black folks, what we do is, if you're depressed or you're having whatever, a spell, whatever you're going, whatever they're calling it,
A
right?
spell.
Yeah. You go talk to the pastor or you go see Big Mama and she bakes you a cake, So now you got diabetes and mental health. And that's true. You go see Big
High blood
Mama.
pressure too.
Yeah. Get you some ribs and a pound cake. Well, that's not going to. So
Oh my
now.
God.
No, I mean, one of the things that I'm having to learn as recently as the last 6 months is that I learned how to cook later in life, learned how to cook things that were really good with the stuff in it that, that we like to put in it. The last 6 months when I switched over I was vegan, then I switched over to plant-based. And when I switched over to plant-based with no oil, no salt, no sugar, I've had to learn how to cook differently, right? So then part of the way that I typically show my affection for people or love is I would cook for them, right? Well, I don't cook like I used to. So I got to find some other way of saying I care, right? So it's the same thing, like I said about Big Mama making you a plate of ribs or a cake. It's like, no, that doesn't work anymore.
Big Mama.
That's true. That's true.
I can see Big Mama. I can see Big Mama dancing in my head right now. Well, listen.
That was a skill set we had then. Mm-hmm. That's what we thought we needed to do. That was a way to survive. And now I want us to get off that. I want us to move into thriving. The survival we've done that. We can do that. We can do that with our eyes closed. We don't need to. It's time to do something else.
Well, give us some coping strategies and mechanisms to help us out.
Okay. One thing would be, like I said, it's only cost you $1. One thing would be go to the dollars wherever you are on the planet. They've got a 99-cent store. They've got a Family Dollar. They have what's the other one? Dollar General.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You can get a notebook. I got tons of them behind me. You get a notebook and journal every day.
Aha.
Write down all the stuff you can't share with people, and it's just for you. So you're not going to share it with anybody. Nobody's going to see it. Sit down and give yourself 20 or 30 minutes first thing in the morning.
Okay.
About what's going on with you. And what will generally happen, this is what worked for me. And I've been doing that practice. It's the morning pages from the Artist Way.
Okay.
I've been doing that practice for 25 years, since January of 97. I think I've missed one day in 25 years.
That's impressive.
And I can chart my growth and my my health based on what I'm complaining about or what I'm railing against. I can look at, like I was writing this morning about, there was something in the last 48 hours that's changed for me about how not only how I'm job hunting, but how I see myself on the planet, how I show up.
Okay.
And I realized, I was like, I was writing this morning and I was like, yeah, that's over. Like, doing it this way is over. Mm-hmm. And I thought, where'd that come from? And this is only in the last 24, 48 hours. So yeah, get a notebook. Get yourself a love army. People that you can actually trust who will tell you the truth. Now the other side of that is, like, sometimes people will say, stop telling anybody your problems. Half of them don't want to hear it, and the other half are glad as you. So you don't want those kind of friends.
No, you don't.
So get your
you don't.
Have people around you who will tell you the truth. I have a very good friend who is a white guy. He's probably 5 or 6 years older than me. He was the first friend I made when I moved to California. Mm-hmm. Talked to him yesterday. I've known him 14 years at this point. He always tells me the truth. Now, he's in recovery, And part of recovery is telling the truth. And they know that that's how you stay, that's how you don't get in, that's how you stay in recovery.
Got it.
It's by being honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just unabashedly honest. But he's always honest with me. Even when I get ready to do something that's kind of out there, you know, he'll very lovingly, and I had to learn how to hear it lovingly, very lovingly, very gently will say, well, why are you doing it that way? You know, well, you've done that before. You know, what's any different now? Now, it used to piss me off.
But not anymore, huh?
So I had to learn how to hear it. And I had to learn, you know, you're right. His famous thing was always, you know, that's like taking the second bite out of a turd. I'm like, ooh, yeah, almost like, well, that's true. You know, it's still a turd, whether you go back for another dose or not. But but it made sense. And I thought, okay, that's true. So yeah, those are some coping strategies. And you can use those until you find a great therapist. And the therapist, let me say this, and the therapist may not look like you.
Right.
The best ones I had 2 great ones in New York. One of them was this little young, I swear that man was 12. I was like, how old are you? Like, should you be doing this? But he was a young, blonde therapist, great. The second one I had was, I think he was Puerto Rican or Dominican. And I went to him for a couples counseling. The guy I was with at the time went to him. And I mean, he said some stuff like the first week, I said, wait a minute. So they were both wonderful. And neither one of them looked like me or had my experience.
Well,
don't let that be a deterrent either.
I had to go through a few before I found my most effective therapist. It was a Jewish lady. And without her, I mean, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So sometimes sometimes you just have to go through a few to find the right fit, and you can't give up on it.
Nope.
Because if you do give up on it, you're giving up on yourself. And that's something that you don't want to do. You know, we're going to have you back in November, but briefly, your new book, Twice as Good, give us the 25-word elevator pitch. And when you come back in November, we're going to really dig deep into that book.
25-word elevator.
And count them on your fingers, too, to make sure it's
I'm counting in my head first.
That works.
25. Okay, here we go. Twice as Good is an homage to brilliant Black artists who paved the way.
That's
24.
That's good. And my audience, that's a hell of a tease. We'll get into that in November. But I want to shift into your role as documentary filmmaker. Give us the 411 on that.
Documentary filmmaking. Okay, that I saw a movie, Bowling for Columbine, way back in. Yes, I saw it back in 2003. Is that when it came out? 2003, 2004.
Michael Moore?
Michael Moore.
Right,
yes.
2003, 2004.
It came out in 2003. I was living in New York, and I had been in New York at that point I had been in New York at that point for 8 years. I was running around doing all this artistic stuff, right? Working with a band, producing other people, telling jokes. And I was doing all of these artistic things and couldn't figure out how and why and when they were all going to meld into something, right? I knew something was coming, but I didn't know what that something was going to be. How do I do all these things that I have an understanding for, I'm pretty good at? How do I make this work? I saw that film and everything clicked for me.
Oh, okay.
And I thought that's exactly what I should be doing. It was one of those situations where you see something or you have the experience where every cell in your body lights up. It starts tingling.
Got it.
And I was like, oh, okay. And it's like, okay, I'm home. That's what I need to be doing. That's where I'm going, right? So this is 2003. So it took probably another 17, 18 years, me doing other things, breakups, getting together, getting married, moving across the country, homelessness, being broke. And so finally, the fall of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I just told myself, I said, you know what I want to do? I was on my couch, and I speak a lot of things into existence, and I speak things to the universe, where I put my order in. And I was sitting on my couch in Long Beach, California, and I said, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to learning all I can about film.
Ah, okay.
And in particular about documentary filmmaking. Didn't know what that meant. Didn't have any inkling that that was going to happen. It just kind of came up and it came out, right? That was on a Friday, maybe a Thursday or Friday. The next Monday, I got a text message from somebody, a coworker of mine, with a flyer in the text message. And it said, Documentary Filmmaking for Social Change, a program sponsored by USC. And I thought, that was a quick turnaround.
That was.
I got it on a Monday. They said Wednesday we're having like an open house, a virtual open house, because we're still on lockdown. Okay. We're having a virtual open house. So I was like, oh, that's quick. Yeah, that's quick. So I went to the virtual open house Wednesday. Once again, the tingling started. 10 minutes in, I was on fire. My spine felt, and this is no lie, this is what I knew was something I needed to do. My spine felt like somebody was pouring hot lava down my spine. I mean, everything in me was engaged in a way that I was looking for something like that, right? We went to potty break. I talked to my husband during the break. I said, look, this is what's come up. This is what I want to do. I think it's a great idea. I want to do this. He said, yeah, go for it. So I said, okay. Went back. Before they even came back from break, I used my credit card. I signed up for the class. What are we doing next? What's next? We started the class. Luckily for me, I know storytelling because I've done films and I've done theater, so I know about putting together a story, right? But I hadn't done a documentary film.
Right.
So we started, and about halfway through, as you know from the creative process, you always think, you start out of the gate, thinking you're doing this over here.
Absolutely.
I'm going to make a film, write a book, tell a story about X. Halfway through, the bottom always falls out, which it always does. Everything you thought you were going to do was like, okay, this is crap. Why did I think I could do this? This is a bad idea. I have no idea what I'm doing. You know, what do I need to do? Originally, I was going to do a story about Black men and police brutality.
Right.
And I was going to base it on a book that I had written called Kiss Me, Kill Me. And Kiss Me, Kill Me, Trayvon Martin, black male bodies, and white supremacy. I was going to do this whole thing, you know, and right all these wrongs. So halfway through it, I realized, somebody pointed out to me, have you thought about doing a film where somebody can take, they can watch the film and then immediately do something right then and there in their own house to make a change for their lives without the world changing. They don't have to wait for the world to. They don't have to wait for the world to shift before they make a change and do something that's healthy and good for them. Have you thought about making a film that way? And I had not. And once again, it was like this twang on a guitar, and it was like, wow. And I said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a film about Black folks and veganism and why I started doing veganism and my health scare I had with the doctor and what led me into it. And I did this film, and it's called Ask the Old Guy, and it's all about my journey in veganism and me meeting all these really wonderful Black vegans on Twitter.
Right.
That I met all these people and started, and I didn't want to be in the film because I thought, well, this is a story. You know, I don't need to be in it. Initially, the reasons were vanity because I was like, okay, I put on a little weight since the pandemic. Nobody wants to see. I don't want to capture that.
Everybody put on weight during the pandemic. Everybody.
We thought everybody thought it was the apocalypse. So why not eat what you want to eat?
Big Mama food, baby.
Yeah, call Big Mama. Let her make 2 cakes. So I said, yeah, we're not gonna do this. So luckily my co-producer, co-director pushed me. You know, she said, I think you need to be in it.
Right.
You know, it's your story. You're you're the linchpin, you're the thread throughout this whole thing. And basically, the artist needs somebody to care about and somebody to follow, right? We did a rough cut. I don't think I was in it. Then we did the second one, and I was in it. And everybody said the same. Everybody agreed with her. Like, yeah, you have to be in this. Otherwise, it's a news report. You can watch the news. There's nothing anybody is saying that you couldn't get from the news. But because you're talking about it, and used to have a huge garden in California, but because you're talking about it, and you're walking through your garden, showing how you get tomatoes and fresh vegetables and squash, and you're in your kitchen, roasting Brussels sprouts and making this meal and chopping carrots. People need to see that. There's something about that whole process. And then after I saw it, I thought, oh my God, they were right. So I did this film, and like I say, it premiered about a year ago, last July.
Now, you had an issue of soaring high blood pressure, correct?
Yes.
So that's the foundation of the film, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I went to the doctor right before COVID. My birthday is in February, and COVID really hit us hard in March.
Right.
About 2 weeks before COVID, I went to the doctor, and they took my blood pressure, and they got all freaked out. And it's never a good sign when the folks in the white coats, when the doctors are getting freaked out. It's like, you need to calm the hell down. Because if you're like, I'm relying on you to have a level head. But they took my blood pressure, and it was super high. It was through the roof. And they took it 4 times because they couldn't believe it was that high and nothing had happened to me. And they said, well, you're getting ready to have a stroke. You're getting ready to stroke out. And I was like, oh, no, I've just been a little dizzy. And once again, talking about normalizing, I had normalized constant headaches. I had normalized being dizzy all the time. I had normalized getting up a half a dozen times at night to pee or couldn't sleep. And so all these things that were going on, I had just kind of chalked them up to, I'm getting older. This is just my lot in life, right? I'm Black, male, in my 50s. Then I went to the doctor. They put me on this medication, which I didn't want to do, and I fought. I got on the medication. Then about 6 months later is when I did an experiment. I took a 30-day challenge. Okay. And I told my husband, September 1, I'm going to do 30 days, and I'm going to go vegan. So there'll be no dairy, no meat, I had this whole list of things I wasn't going to eat, right? And I was just going to vegetables, fruits, great water, that type of thing. Right. Did it for 30 days. Loved how I felt. Okay. It just absolutely was night and day. So I kept going. And then I kept going. And then a year and a half into it, I started this wellness program. This woman by the name of Lisa Smith has a program called the Black Health Academy. Okay. And it was a group of us. And we did a 12-week course. And it was no oil, no salt, no sugar. And you had to, you had an accountability buddy. And you had to tell what you were eating and post it. And there was no hiding, right? So none of this nonsense about, I had a couple of Twinkies, but there's none of that. I slept up. There was none of that nonsense, right? So you had to post every day. You had to drink water every day. So I did that, 20 pounds gone right off the top. Wow. Everything shifted. I started sleeping through the whole night. No headaches anymore. None of that stuff. So by the time the film came out, which was last July, I hadn't quite made the full switch over to plant-based, which is where I am now, which is what I started doing in January. Okay. But yeah, the whole movie came about because of that. Then somebody pointed out to me when we were premiering it and talking about it, the wonderful professor, Rafael Angulo at USC, pointed out, he said, well, what you're doing, you're starting a movement. You want 10,000 Black men to look at their health differently, to realize that they matter, to not normalize all the stuff that we've normalized. You are starting a movement. And that's kind of where I am now. I want us to, put down the pound cake. And I enjoy pound cake. That's why we put down the banana pudding.
Big Mama. Don't come over my house, Big Mama.
Don't do it. Yeah, because if you try to show Big Mama how to cook differently, she's gonna say, "Well, that ain't gonna taste right."
Yes, she will.
Why are you doing that? So they don't know, So you can't expect. People do what they know, right? They do what they're comfortable with. So don't ask. So you might have to reconfigure the relationship with Big Mama and those cakes and pie, and they're good. They're good.
It's so good.
All this stuff is
They're
good. But
so
but if you
good.
but if you're trying to live to 150, or like you said, in one conversation we had 180,
Damn right.
you got to let that go. You have to let that go, and you got to find or decide, I'm just gonna go out here early, but I'm gonna enjoy this. But it's a decision. You got to, and then after a certain point, it's no longer negotiation. Like I don't negotiate certain things in my head anymore. I don't negotiate whether I'm going to eat hot wings. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
Now I enjoyed them when I did, but there's no pull on that for me. Or cheese sticks, or all this stuff, scallops, all that stuff. No, we're not doing that anymore. So,
okay.
It is what it is.
Briefly tell us about your podcast, Visionaries and Truth Tellers. When you come back, we're going to really dig into that. But give us a 25-word elevator pitch.
You are killing me with these elevators. I can't talk about that in 20. Oh, God. Let's see. Visionaries and Truth Tellers involves talking with people who are changing the planet.
I like it.
That's 22 words.
You know what? I am so proud of you. And we're going to talk about the podcast next time. We're going to really dig in deep. Oh, I have a question for you before we leave.
Mm-hmm.
What if there was some magic that made you not be able to do what you're doing now professionally? You couldn't write, you couldn't do the documentary films, you couldn't do the podcast. What would you do? What profession would you adopt?
That's a good question. Probably a chef, some kind of chef, and or some type of coach, like a financial coach.
Right.
I'm actually coaching people now financially, and I've forgotten how much I love it and how good I am at it. I'm already seeing changes with people, and I've forgotten how much I love it. So that if I couldn't do the creative stuff, that would be, and that's creative.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Getting people to think about their money and their behavior differently.
Yeah.
You got to have a whole lot of tricks up your sleeve.
Yes, yeah, you do. You truly do. Okay. Where can we purchase Unfettered Mind and Twice as Good?
Okay. Great question. Twice as Good is free, people. Free. Free. It costs no money. You can download it. It's an EPUB. It's in every format available. I don't understand all those formats, but whatever you need, you can get it for free. The other one, you can get both of them. On my website, I have all of my books on my website. And my website is anthony-carter.com. So it's my name, anthony-carter.com.
Give us your social media.
Social media is Twitter at Anthony L. Carter. Probably it for my social media. I try to focus just on one. I don't want to be everywhere. So yeah. I'm on Twitter. Oh, and my website for the films.
Oh, yeah.
Ask the Old Guy and my other films. I have some experimental films in there too. Is burnthemanualproductions.com. Burnthemanualproductions.com.
Wonderful. Now, as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, you'll be back in November.
And yes, I will.
Yes, you'll be back. Man, listen, I am so glad I had you on, Mr. Anthony Carter. I want to thank you for stopping by. Wyatt! I appreciate you.
Thank you. And you keep going. I'm very proud of you. When we met 9 years ago, you said you were going to do all this stuff, and you've done it. You've done it and more. You didn't just, flap your gums about it. You got out there and you made it happen. And I've been watching. Well, and I've seen you resurface a couple of times in Twitter. And I was like, oh, that guy's And then you popped up and said, hey, can we do a show? And I sure. And I said, oh my God, it's been 9 years.
You know what? First of all, man, I really thank you for saying that. And on a lighter note, as Michael Jackson would say, oh, Tito, give me a tissue.
Oh my
Give me a tissue.
See, now we're dating ourselves. See, unless somebody is 50 or above, they're not going to. Yeah, you're dating yourself. That these young folks are not going to get that.
Well,
who's Tito? Oh my God, yeah.
Well, whatever. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Anthony Carter, for stopping by.
You're welcome.
Wyatt.
Thank you.
I will see you soon.
Yes, thank you.
So there you have it. You can find the official Wyatt podcast page at WyattEvans.com, which is the go-to destination, y'all, for LGBTQ news, features, commentary, and entertainment. WyattEvans.com is visited by more than 100 countries on the regular. Oh yeah, baby. And at WyattEvans.com, you'll find my smoking hot, HAWT hot, Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels. The latest installment is Frenzy! Yeah, Frenzy. And Frenzy is chock full of masculine romance, intrigue, action, danger, passion, and quite a bit of erotica, if you know what I'm talking about. And the predecessor to Frenzy is Rage, all at WyattEvans.com. And I'm working hard just crafting and penning and plotting out the sequel. The sequel, y'all, of the Nothing Can Tear Us Apart series of novels, and I'll be giving you more information on that later. Now, you can follow me, Wyatt Evans, Wyatt O'Brien Evans, actually, your host, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. All my social media is right there in front of your faces. And if you want to drop me a line, you know what I'm talking about. That's WyattOnAir@gmail.com. So until next time, y'all, woof, goddammit, woof, 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 woof.